Hi everybody, it's me, the guy who needs no introduction. Let's talk about news release option B. We are training you to be thoughtful, strategic communicators. What that means is you get information that you need to disseminate and you think about it. What does this say? What impact would it have when I release it to publics? What are people going to think about this? What do they already know? What do they need to know? You think about brand management, you think about reputation, you think about these kinds of things, you think about persuasion, all these kinds of things, this strategic thinking we've talked about. And then you say, okay, how am I going to write this and put it out in such a way that it will create positive feedback and it will positively reflect on our organization? That's the whole thoughtful and strategic thing I've been talking about since the beginning of the class. Okay. The fact set for City College is, on face, bad news. It's talking about cuts. It's talking about something that happened that was outside of your control. If you turn that around and just regurgitate that information to the media, you are creating City College the victim. Oh, cuts. Oh, it's not good for students. Oh, we're so sorry this has happened. Oh, boo-hoo-hoo. Now, you people are media savvy, just as I am. What will the media do with that? City College is in a bad way. City College is suffering. City College students are being hurt. See more at 11. The TV news will go out to your campus and they will interview students and they will say, we heard about the cuts. The cuts are really awful. Tell us about how you're suffering. And what are students going to say? Oh, it's terrible. Oh, I think I had a transfer. This is bad. I can't believe they're doing this. And who created that? You did, because you wrote the news release that talked about it. Why would you create bad news for your organization? I don't know. Now, that story can be told in a positive way. It can be told in a way where you describe how City College is, in fact, empowered. You can't control the cut from the federal government, but you can control how you deal with it. And in fact, buried in the fact set is a nugget of good news. This is how we dealt with it in a positive way. Don't ignore that. That's your story. Build your story around that. Don't just regurgitate the bad news. It'll make City College look bad, and you will lose your job. You will lose your job if you do that. This is public relations, folks. This is where the rubber hits the road, and you got to do it right. Because if you don't, you will lose your job. I've said that 3 times now, haven't I? Okay. Some other concerns I have about option B. Chicagoland. It's going out to Chicagoland media. So what? Why would you put that in the news release? Think of yourself as a gatekeeper. You get a news release, and this news release says it went to every other news outlet in town. Do you feel special? No. Are you going to want to run it? Maybe not. If everybody else got the story, why do you need to have the story? Maybe you'll do a different story. So, just because something is in the fact set doesn't mean you have to use it. You don't have to use Chicagoland because it doesn't matter. We never tell, on a news release, we never tell gatekeepers who else we've sent it to. It doesn't matter. We want them to think it's special just for them. Dateline. Check the AP style book. If you don't have one, you're going to really struggle for the remainder of this class. You've got to have it. You've got to know when Chicago is in a dateline, does a state need to go next to it or not? I'll let you look that one up. Percent. Look that one up too. If you used a funny little symbol with 2 zeros and a line between them, probably not a good idea. Quotes. Remember at the beginning of class I said you need to use common copy errors, the document, because you'll save yourself a lot of point loss? If I see quotes that start with, John Jones said, blah, 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 blah. That's not how we do it. So read common copy errors and look at newspaper articles to see how they quote people. A newspaper article, 99.9% of the time, will never say, in the text, John Jones said, comma, quote, blah, 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 blah. That's just not how it's done. So if you want to get your news release used, you've got to frame it, you've got to structure it the way news releases are structured. And quotes are a big part of that. Passive voice. Why was the road crossed by the chicken? It wasn't. The chicken crossed the road. Active sentences are shorter, they're easier to read, they fit better in a news release. Spacing of the news release, line spacing, don't do single space, it's too hard to read. Do 1.5 at least. Go to your word settings and do line spacing 1.5. If you find that doing 1.5 makes the news release go longer than 2 pages, don't sit there and go, I went longer than 2 pages, I don't know what I'm going to do. Figure out a way to deal with it, okay? Go to the margins. Move the margins out. Move the top up. Move the bottom down. Go to 0.5 all the way around. Then you've got more room on the page. Don't go to 8-point font. That's not readable, okay? Think about this. This goes back to the readings in the chapter where it talked about how it looks visually on the page. Come on, think about it. If your margins are set like this, of course you're not going to have room on the page. Push the margins out. Think about the contact information, the stuff up at the top. Can you condense that? If you're burning up 6 inches of page at the top with the contact information, of course this is not going to work. So think about these things. Think visually as well as in terms of the content. Boilerplate. The news release needs to have a boilerplate at the end. What is a boilerplate? You can go on the internet and do a Google search and find out. Don't put your boilerplate in quotes. When you put something in quotes that's not a quote, it gives the appearance of, well, this is not the real thing. We're just kind of telling you this. So don't put the boilerplate in quotes. The boilerplate has facts in it, so you don't need to put quotes in. And you don't need to put a person's quote in the boilerplate either. Go to page 63 of the text. There's a good example of a news release there. So that's a format you could follow. But that doesn't mean you have to copy that format exactly that way. You can have a little, there's a little room for interpretation there. And the last thing I'm going to say is it's absolutely fine for you guys to work together on this. If you want to work together, talk, discuss, brainstorm, show yourself each other's ideas. That's what this whole drafting thing is about, to get discussion going. However, if I get multiple news releases sent to me that have the same quotes, the same narrative, the same content, that's not brainstorming, that's copying. I don't want to see copying. If I get news releases sent to me that have the exact same mistakes in them, that's copying. And we're not going to have copying, okay? Above all, the City College news release has to put City College in a better position. If you write a news release that puts City College in a worse position than if you had not written it at all, that is not satisfactory, and your grade will reflect that. So please, I'm your friend here. I want you to do well in this business. I want you to get good preparation, but you got to think about stuff. And I realize there's a lot of shit coming at you right now because you got a lot of deadlines. I get that, but this is public relations. This is how it is. So please, take time. Approach this strategically, thoughtfully. Tell a compelling story. Put City College in a better place after your news release than it was before your news release. If you've done that, then you've done what this assignment is asking you to do. Thanks.